All right, so coming back to chapter 5, all right, so yesterday we got to take a look at how to do periodic inventory with the FIFO costing method. Now, today we're going to be learning Lifo, right, which is similar in concept, except just the way we calculate our inventory is the slight difference, all right? So when we talked about costing method, right, yesterday we got to take a look at what happens when we have groceries or perishable foods that we need to sell or get rid of our items in accordance to the way that we purchase it. So going from our very first purchases are usually the ones that are going to be sold first. Now this idea here is similar, but instead of what came first, we are looking at the ones that came very last. Now there are many reasons why a store would choose to do so. I gave an example, right, for any like electronics, right? Usually that for an iPhone, you sell all the older products, but however, when you release that product, your newer models tend to sell first than your older models. So, and then same thing with the grocery store. If you have, anything that has later models, you usually would stack them in the front versus the older models that are stacked in the back. So, once again, when we take a look at Lifo, right? Same exact idea as FIFO, except instead of looking at what came first, we're going to be looking at what came in last. All right, so here you go, last in our first out method. All right, so the formulas here are identical. Okay, so when we talk about the purchase price, it's quantity times the unit price. When we talk about total cost, it's your purchase price plus your freight. Then when we talk about cost per item, it's the same thing. We get the total cost divided by the quantity. All right? But the goods available and the way that we calculate our cost of goods sold, well, the goods available is the same thing as well. You take your beginning inventory and you add it to your net purchases to get what your goods available are. But your cost of goods sold is also going to be your net purchases minus any ending inventory, right? These are all the same exact formulas we're going to be using in the worksheet. However, the way that we calculate our total cost for the cost of goods sold is where it's different. All right, so let's dive right in here. So same example as yesterday. On June 1st, we decided to purchase 100 toys at $1.25 with the freight costing $25. It's the same thing here, right? We recognize that we have a purchase expense and we have a freight expense, and we placed it on an account. So once again, calculations here. Purchase price is $125. The freight is $25, giving me a grand total of $150. Right? We plug it into our table here, right? And we are given 3 key factors, right? We know what the quantity is, we know what the unit price is, and we know what the freight is. So now we just have to plug in our formulas to find out our blank areas. So first one, we have purchase price, right? Unit times quantity, which gives you $125, plus $25 freight to give you a total cost of $150. And then now we need to create some kind of unique way to separate our batches by determining how much it's going to cost me to sell each batch. So in this case, my first batch is, my total cost was $150 and I have a total quantity of 100. So I'm going to take $150 divided by my quantity to get $1.50 as my cost per item or cost per unit. Okay, so right here, I recognize that's my very first batch. So then the next scenario says that on June 11, we made another purchase of 100 toys at $1.28 plus freight of $26. So same thing here, right? Purchase expense and freight expense for $128 and $26 respectively, right? And we're going to plug it back into our table once again to solve for the rest of the table. So once again, solve for your purchase price of $128 plus $26 to give you a total of $154. All right? Which we break it down the cost per item to be $1.54. Okay? So now once we reach this, right, if you notice that the very last thing that it told you was that you have X amount in your inventory on the 15th. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to tally up our totals, right? We know that before we do or complete our inventory worksheet, for the month of the 15th, because we have a total amount in ending inventory already, we need to solve for what was our total net purchases. So in this case, right, we purchased a total of 200 items at $253 plus a total of $51 of freight to give me a grand total of $304. So this part is the same as yesterday's. Right? And we're going to take these four pieces of information and we're going to carry it over into our worksheet once again. This is the bottom half of the worksheet. So we plug in that we have a quantity of 200 that we purchased. That cost me a total of $253. We don't have any returns or allowances, so therefore our subtotal should remain the same. We need to include our freight. Freight doesn't increase quantity, but it does increase cost. So here we have a total net purchases of 200 items at a grand total of $304, right? And we were also given that on June 15, we had a total of 80 items left available on hand. So once again, we're assuming that we are beginning our inventory from the very beginning, as in we start off with 0. So here we plug in our net purchases that we got from right above. And now we need to calculate our goods available, which once again, since I don't have beginning inventory, therefore my net purchases is going to be my goods available. All right? And once again, we are given to the information that we have 80 items available on hand. So if we start out with 200 and we have 80 items available, therefore we must have sold 120 items during the first 2 weeks of June. Right? So now that we have this information that we sold 120 units, now we need to look at how we're going to calculate our cost of goods sold, the cost of it, or the value of my cost of goods sold. So once again, when we take a look at our inventory, right, we have 2 batches, right? Our first batch was for 150 that we bought on June 1st. And then the second batch was another 100 at $1.54, which we bought on June 11th. The way we're going to cost it this time, if we're using Lifo, is that we're going to start from the bottom and make our way up to the top. So in this case, right, the last batch that we purchased was the June 11th for $1.54. So here right away, right off the bat, I'm going to recognize that this 100 items for $1.54 is automatically going to be taken away. All right? So then Now I only have 20 units left to sell, and I only have one batch left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 20 items and I'm going to take my cost per item of $1.50 and I'm going to solve for whatever amount that is, which it gives me a total of $30. So once again, when I calculate 154 plus $30, I get a grand total of 184. All right? As my total cost of goods sold. And then I am only left with 80 items costing me at $1.50, right? To give you a total of 120. Or I can take my goods available of 304, subtract out my $84 even, and I should get a total of 120 to be my ending balance. So in this case, right, notice this. We're working our way from bottom to the top, right? As we make a list of the purchases that we make, we're going to start from the very bottom or the most recent purchase and build our way up to the top. Now in this case, this is also a little thing that you could know as well, is that this is possible, especially when inventory, when you make purchases of inventory and you notice that every time you make the purchase of the inventory, it's getting pricier and pricier and pricier every single time you make a purchase. So what happens is that if you choose the Lifo method, what you're actually doing is that you're saving the profits for a later time. Right? When it costs you this much, right? But you charging, right? You upped your selling price because of the market telling you that it is getting more expensive. The dollar is, being the society's being inflated, so therefore you need to mark up your prices in selling your items. So maybe by the end of that, it will actually benefit you at the end to sell your more expensive ones first, so you'd get less of a profit now versus later on in the future. You can actually, when you mark up your prices, it will give you a bigger profit at the end of the day. But that's just a little tangent, but here, that's how we're going to calculate, and that's what Lifo is. Straightforward, same exact idea, except the way that we calculate our cost of goods sold is the only difference here. We're not starting from the top and making our way down to the bottom. We're making our way from bottom to the top, right? Any questions? No. Okay. So once again, once we fill out our inventory worksheet, we are obligated to complete a conversion entry. So once again, it should look like this, right? What we're doing is we're taking our purchase expense and we're converting it into inventory and cost of goods sold. So when we filled out our worksheet, right, we're essentially building our journal right here. We know exactly what our ending inventory was. It was for 120. We know exactly what what cost of goods sold was because we calculated it to be 184. And then purchase, right? We're looking at the total purchases of the 200 items, which we know was 253, plus the freight of 51, and there we have it. That is our journal here. All right? Plugging in information that we've already solved in the inventory worksheet. Right? So then, what happens when we have beginning inventory? Same idea, except this time, when we actually transfer beginning inventory, right? The same idea works for FIFO. You're going to treat this beginning inventory as if it was the first batch that you started out with. It's going to be the very first thing that you have in your inventory. So when we use LIFO, right, sometimes your ending inventory might be your beginning inventory. You may have to transfer that beginning inventory back into your ending inventory. All right? Sometimes you'll get rid of it, sometimes you won't. Maybe you might tap in a few of the items in there, sometimes you won't. So in this case, right, we're making the same assumption here where when we treat our beginning inventory, it's as if that batch came first. So in this idea, when we use the LIFO method, every purchase that we make is going to be exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take away the things that came in last. So the last purchase that you've made is what you're going to start costing your goods as sold. So then calculating that amount out, you're going to start off with your most recent one that you've purchased, right? Beginning just acts as if this was something that you've had first, all right? So once again, we have the idea here where we are on June 15 that we have a total of 80 units on hand costing at $120, right? Then we have a purchase on June 18 for 100 toys at $1.27 with freight of $25. And then again, we made another purchase on the 23rd of June for additional 100 toys at $1.30 each, which we calculated the freight to be $26. So let's go ahead and dive right in and plug in our information into our table. So once again, here we're plugging in, this is the net purchases, right? When we deal with inventory on hand, it's a completely separate worksheet. But here now we're recognizing this section here where we're introducing to the net purchases. So here we have 100 toys at $127, give you $127. And then we add our freight to get a total of $152. And then from there, we take our cost per item to be $1.52. Right. Of course, then we're going to add our second batch here, which we purchased on the 23rd for 100 items at $130 to give you a total of $130, plus $26 to give you a total of $156. And then from there, our unit price or our cost per item is going to be $1.56. So once again, just like how we did our worksheet, right? This section right here is only strictly to our net purchases. So we're going to make sure that we add up our total net purchases here, right? We purchased a total of 200 items at $257 plus additional $51 of freight to give you a total of $308 worth of net purchases, right? Then we're going to plug those numbers back into this worksheet here, right? Once we solve for our net purchases, then we need to also realize that we have a beginning inventory. We're going to plug that number in to show that we have beginning inventory of 80 units at a total of $120, right? So again, our cost of goods available is going to be my 80 plus my beginning plus my net purchases to give me a total of 280 units at a grand total of $428. So once again, we were also given this little piece of information here that on June 30th, we should have a total of 60 toys left on hand. So therefore, solving for my cost of goods sold, we have here is going to be 220, right? You're going to take your 280, subtract the 60 to get you 220, right? And then this is where we take a look at our inventory, right? We have our beginning inventory, which acts as if it's your first batch at 80 items at $150. Then we made a purchase of 100 toys at 152, and then we made another purchase of 100 toys at 156. So in this scenario, when we're calculating our cost of goods sold, we need to take out a total of 220 items. So in this case, we're going to take the last thing that came in here, that the last purchase that we made, which was the 100 items at $1.56. So we're going to take that, and that's our very first thing that we're going to calculate here, is that we're going to take out that whole 100 items because we're sold 220. So that first whole entire 100 items for the 156 is the first thing we're going to take out. Then the next thing is, now we have 2 batches. So in this case, I'm going to take a look at, the next one is, I'm going to make my way up. So the next batch that I purchased recently is going to be for my 100 items at $1.52. Since we sold a total of 220, automatically we're going to take out that whole entire batch, and now we're left with just only that 80 units left. Okay, so we've already have a total of 200. So my idea here is I only need 20 more items to sell, and we only have one batch left costing at $1.50. So we're going to calculate my 20 items at $1.50 to get a total of $30, and we're going to add up our columns here. So this gives me a total of 220 items that I've sold at a grand total cost of $338 even, right? We plug that number in, and now we only have left is to solve for our ending inventory, which we have 2 ways to solve it, right? If you have it in your table, right, we have 60 items at $1.50, which gives me a total of $90. Or if I just take my $428 and I subtract out my $338, I'm going to get my $90. Okay. So once again, if you saw how we organized our inventory, right? And the way that we calculated our cost of goods sold is that we are going from bottom to top. All right? Taking the most recent purchases and making our way to the older purchases. All right? Any questions here?
No.
Okay. So once again, we need to complete our conversion entry, which once again, we need to add one more account in here, right? We need to recognize that we have a beginning inventory and we also have an ending inventory. So the order that we place it in here is going to always be ending inventory first, cost of goods sold, purchase, expense, freight expense, and then you're going to recognize your beginning inventory. So as we've mentioned before here, right, what we're essentially doing is we're going to take the amount of net purchases that we've made, right? And we're just going to throw in our beginning balance in there so then we have our goods available. Then we're going to slowly distribute which ones are going to go into your ending inventory and which ones have been sold, if you think of it that way. All right? So we're zeroing out all of those accounts and we're emptying them into these other 2 accounts for your inventory on hand or your ending inventory and your cost of goods sold. So once again, you're just going to, since you've done the work already in your worksheet, you're just going to plug those numbers in. Okay. And that is it for chapter 5.4. So once again, we recognize how to journalize our transactions, right? And we recognize how to complete a conversion entry, right? When we wait to 5.5, there is a slide that kind of gives you a summary of all of the different methods. So we'll just wait till then, all right? So let's go ahead and dive right into the very first scenario here, or our very first exercise here. So today we're going to be looking at two exercises, right? We're going to look at exercise 1 for the Lifo, and it's going to be the same exact one that we did yesterday, except we're calculating it as Lifo this time. So things will start looking familiar. However, I also threw another exercise in there for exercise 2, which just helps us, just keeps practicing on with Lifo. So once again, let's dive right into the exercise. Now, what I'm going to have you guys do is, once again, the general journal. For this one, we've already practiced this many times before, right? If we practice it today, it's just going to be the same exact idea. I don't know if you want to practice it or not, but we have the room for it if you want to. But like I've said before, we know exactly how to do it. It's not difficult. It's rinse and repeat. It's up to you if you want practice there. But for this one, let's just do for the first set of questions here. So for question 1, we'll just journalize these 5 things here. And then the second question or the third part of the question, we'll just do the conversion entry. So let's go ahead and do the first one. So on April 5th, we purchased a total of 1,000 units at $5 each, with the freight costing $100. So once again, how do I journalize this? It is April 5th.
You'll debit purchase expense for $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then debit freight for $100.
And
Accounts payable credit for $5,100.
yes. All right. So yesterday we talked about what you can do here. You can type everything in if you want to. If we know what our amounts are, if it's not as easy as 1,000 times 5, you can go ahead and actually type in here that you purchased 1,000 times $5, and you'd still be able to get the same exact result. All right. So here, if you just want to make sure that your calculations are correct, you can just enter in the formula, a formula into the cell here. All right. And of course, I'm also going to make a note here because in case I do have any returns, like we saw before, I need to make sure I make a note that I purchased 1,000 units and the price at it was $5 each. Right. So now let's go back to our inventory worksheet and plug in our numbers. So we were given it was April 5th. We purchased 1,000 units at $5 and freight was $100. So what is going to be my purchase price? $5,000, right? It's going to be your quantity times the unit. All right, your total cost is going to be
51.
51, right? You're going to take your purchase price and you're going to add your freight to get a total of 5,100. All right, so this is where you need to do a little extra work. So what is going to be my cost per item here?
Total cost divided by unit price.
Quantity.
20.
$5.10.
$5.10. Now, once again, you guys can choose to use colors if you would like. In this case, what you're going to notice is that as you build your list here, you know exactly what the order is because you have the date right next to it. So it's up to you if you prefer to use colors. But I'm not gonna do colors today. Right? So then what happened on April 10? We purchased 750 units at $5.75 each, with the freight costing $75. Okay. So first I'm going to go to my journal, right? And I am going to journalize this. So what should my journal look like?
Purchase expense would be 4,312.
Okay. $4,312.50. Good. What was my freight again? It was 75. So what's my total accounts payable going to be?
4,387.50.
Good. Okay. I changed my notes here that we purchased 750 units at $5.75 each. Okay. So now let's plug in our numbers here. So here we have another batch here, right? We know this is batch 2 because the order that we're placing it in pretty much it tells us when we bought it to. April 10. So we purchased 750 units at $5.75 with the freight of $75. So what's my total purchase price going to be here?
$43.12.50.
Mm-hmm. What's my total cost?
$43.87.50.
43. Okay, good. And my cost per item?
$5.85.
$5.85, right? We took our total cost of the 4,387.50 and we're dividing it evenly amongst 750 units. All right. Then we have on April 20th, we purchased 200 units at $6 each with a freight costing $20. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the inventory worksheet first so that we don't have to double up on our numbers. So I'm going to go straight to the inventory worksheet. It is April 20th. we purchased 200 units at $6 each with a freight of $20, I think. So here, what is my purchase price here?
$1,200.
$1,200 total cost.
1220.
$1,220, bringing me a cost per item to be
$1.20. No, yes, $1.20.
not $1.20.
My
We have 200
my
items.
calculator went out. Two. So it's 200 divided into. I have 10, but something on my calculator just went out.
That's fine. Someone else want to help her out?
$6.10.
Yes, we're gonna take
Oh.
we're gonna take 1220
Oh, okay.
and we're gonna divide it by the 200. So in this case, it is 610.
610.
Mm-hmm.
The other calculator over there. Thanks.
So now that we have this right here, right? Now if we journalize our information, right, instead of having to recalculate it twice, right? Our journal, right? You could copy and paste your journals. That's completely allowed. And in this case, since I've already solved for my purchase price and stuff like that, I know that it was for 1200 and I know freight was 20, so therefore my total cost was 1220. Okay. And of course, I also need to make a little note here that I purchased 200 units at $6 each.
Isn't that 610?
Well, no, that 610 is including freight, but we purchased the items at $6. We purchased it at $6 because in case that we have to return an item, let's say I found that 5 of them were broken toys, I can't refund freight. I can only refund it from the original purchase price of $6. But in this case, the reason why I calculated freight in there is because when I do charge my customers, I'm going to make them pay for both the unit price that it cost me as well as the shipping and handling it cost me to get the item to the store. I'm going to have them cover all of my costs. So the $6 is what I originally purchased it for. But the 610 is going to be what I charge my customers to cover the cost when I sell my items. Right? Are you okay with that concept? Does that make sense? Is that clear?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. So second last, I guess, to not least, on April 25th, we purchased additional 500 units at $625 with a freight of 50. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to plug in April 25th. We purchased 500 units at $625 and the freight was 50. So what's my total purchase price here?
$3,125.
Good. Right, what's my total cost here?
$3,175.
Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, what is going to be my cost per item? $6.35, right? We took the cost or the freight and we spread it across the 500 items to make my cost per item now become $6.35. All right. Let's go ahead and journal this up real quick, and then we can go ahead and get started with the calculations. What was that?
Sorry.
Okay, no worries. 425. So the great thing about Excel too is that you can, for instance, I can cell reference my work. I could say, well, this is what I solved for, and this was by freight, and my grand total cost is this. So here I don't really have to do too much work, but that's why I'm trying to make it a little more easier by, if you want to choose to do this, right? If you choose to do the inventory worksheet first, that way you can eliminate from having to double calculate. Okay. So once again, that is primarily chapter 5 right here, is recognizing how to journalize a purchase. You're just going to do purchase expense, freight expense, and whatever means that you paid for these items. All right. So now that we completed that one, let's go ahead and see what happened on April 30th. We had a total of 600 units on hand. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and drop down all the way to my ending inventory, because here I'm given that I have 600 units on hand. All right. That's how much I have left. So now that we have that and we reach the end of the given month, we need to calculate our total net purchases, or sum up our columns. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and apply my equal sum formula. So equal sum, parentheses, and then you can either click and highlight what areas that you want to sum, and then enter. So in this case, how many items did I actually purchase? 2450 items, all right? What was my total purchase price?
Just enter the column.
Right.
$13,637.50.
Good. So then what was my total freight?
245.
245. Good. And then what was my total cost?
$13,882.50.
Okay. So once again, these numbers are very important to help us solve for our net purchases, right? I know that I purchased a total of 2,450, and I know that it cost me $13.75. $637.50. All right. We don't have any purchase returns or allowances. So therefore, when we subtract out these numbers, my subtotal is going to be the same exact. All right. But when we dive into chapter 5 review on Monday, we're going to be practicing, well, what happens when we actually have those purchase returns and allowances? Okay.
A question.
Mm-hmm.
When we review our material, we're gonna be able to see the formulas that you input in there, right?
Well, what do you mean? Like, oh yes, if when I upload the answers, yes, all the formulas are there. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Freight once again adds 0 to quantity, but it adds to the cost. What was my freight again?
$245.
$245. So now we're going to add up our columns, right? Because freight increases. So in this case, it doesn't change my quantity, but it does change my cost to equal $13,882.50. So once again, here we could take a look. Okay, so that's what I started out with. That should be my matching point. But once we have our returns and allowances, that's not going to be your matching point anymore. All right, but that should be your total debits and credits. So now we have our net purchases. Okay. Once again, we're assuming that we're starting from the beginning, so we don't have any beginning inventory. And I'm going to carry my value from my net purchases that is sold from above and drag it down. Okay. And then now I need to solve for my goods available. Since I don't have any beginning inventory, therefore my net purchases is going to be my goods available. So right now I have 2,450 units that I can sell for a total of $13,882.50. All right. And now on April 30th, I'm given that I have 600 units left on hand. So therefore, if I started out with 2,450 and I have 600 left, how many items did I sell? 1850. All right. So something I like to do is I'll do a running balance. So then every time I enter in something in this column, it will calculate and add up this column for me. All right. So once again, this formula can be dragged across as well. You could drag it up, drag it down, drag it across, left or right. Right. So here I just copied this. So this is my equal sum. So every time I enter in something in here, it will calculate for me. So let's start with, so we need to get a grand total of 1850 sold. So we are doing Lifo. So which batch are we going to take away from first?
April 25th.
The last batch that we purchased, which was April 25th at 500 items, right? So we're going to take 500, right? Are we going to take all of it or some of it?
All of it.
All of it. So here, I'm already taking out my first 500 units, right? Which does cost me $635 each to give me a grand total cost of the $3,175. We already know that already. You can choose to skip it, but what I'm going to do here is I just want to make sure I cell reference everything so you know exactly where the numbers come from. All right. So there we have it. The last batch that we purchased is the first one that we sold. All right, my 500, I got rid of my 500. So I still need to sell more items. All right. So out of these 3 batches, which one's the next one that we're going to sell?
April 20th.
Yes, April 20th for the 200 items, costing me at $6.10. And I'm going to take all of it because I need to sell all of it. Right? And it cost me $6.10, which, of course, I know should give me a grand total of the $12.20. All right. So now, let's see. I sold my first 500. I sold another 200. So that's 700. I still need to sell more inventory. So I only have 2 batches left. So which batch am I going to sell next?
750.
The 750. Now, am I going to take all of it or am I going to take some of it?
All of it.
We're going to calculate all of it because 700 plus 750 only gives us 1450, right? So in this case, I need to take all of the batches as of inventory because I need to sell a grand total of 1800, and right now, if I just sell that 750, I only sold a total of 1450. Right? So once again, because we know for a fact that this whole thing is going to cost me $5.85 here, right? If we calculate the total cost, right, it should be for the fourth, we're taking the whole thing out, so therefore it should be the whole entire $4,387.50. All right, so now we only have 1 batch left, right? The very first one that we purchased. All right, how many more do I need to sell from this batch right here?
I think you need 400.
You need 400. So in this case, since I'm only using a portion of it, I actually have to calculate the actual cost per item, which in this case was $5.10, right? I only have that 1 batch left. So out of the 1,000 items here, it's going to cost me $5.10 per item that I sell. So in this case, I need to sell 400 items. So what is 400 times 510?
2040.
2040. All right. So now I've sold a grand total of 850, and it gave me a total sum of all of these numbers, right? All of these 4 numbers gave me a total of $10,822.50. All right. There we have it. So, therefore, how do I solve for my ending inventory?
I'm just going to subtract get a better minus the control.
Good. And I get a total of 3060, right? You can also take the 600 times the 5.55 and 10 cents, and you'll get the same answer. But in this case, you could either do it that way, or you can just take your goods available and just subtract out your ending, your cost of goods sold, and you get 3060. All right. So in this case, right, when we compare it to our previous one, when we did FIFO, right, we ended up having a lot more inventory, and but we sold less. In this case, because I'm using Lifo, right? The assumption is that now I'm selling out my more expensive ones out first, so therefore I should have more inventory at the end of the day. All right, so there we have it. Any questions here? So because we've learned the first one, this one just becomes gradually a lot more easier. All right, so now let's go ahead and complete our conversion entry. Since we reached the end of our inventory and we reach the end of our period, so therefore, what do I need to recognize? How do I journalize this conversion?
Inventory.
You're going to recognize inventory. What else are you going to recognize?
Good sold.
Yes. And what else?
Credit purchase expense
Mm-hmm.
and freight. And we have ending inventory.
Okay, so in this
Yeah.
case, we don't
Everything
have beginning inventory, do we?
being-
So we're perfectly fine right here. Okay. So let's start with the very first one. What was the total cost of my beginning inventory? I'm sorry, what was the total cost of my ending inventory?
$10,822.50.
That is your cost.
3,000, yeah, it's 3,060, correct?
Yes, 3,060. Now, which one is my cost of goods sold?
about 10,800.
Mm-hmm. What was my total original purchase price?
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
Okay. 13,6, 37.50. And last but not least, what was my freight? Good. So before we can move on, we always need to check one thing's for sure, right? Do my debits match my total credits? In this case, I have 13,882.50 on the left, and I have 13,882.50 on the right. Right? And of course, for your description, you could just say this is a conversion entry. What was it, 600 units? Into inventory. Right? However way your description you'd like, but that was the very first one. Excellent, guys. And that's it for that one. Any questions for this one?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, so let's go ahead and compute the second one. So no journal this time. I just want you to just throw the numbers in directly into the inventory worksheet because we're just going to practice the calculations here. Okay. All right, question number 3. Continue from the exercise, and your inventory tracking method is periodic and Lifo. So here we're indicated that on April 30th that you should have a total of 600 units on hand. which we do, right? We solved it from our previous one. We know that it is from this one, right? So that means we're going to carry the 600 units at $5.10 each into our new inventory worksheet. So here's my new one. All right. Right here, we're going to use our little inventory on hand right here. Right. We know that we have 600 units and we know that it cost $5.10 each. So therefore, if you do your multiplication here, we get a grand total of the 3060, right? Which is exactly what we carried over into the previous worksheet, right? That's exactly what we had for ending inventory. So ending inventory becomes beginning inventory, right? But here, right, we only had one batch, so we didn't have to carry 2 batches or 3 batches over. We only had one batch, and we want to be consistent and carry that whole entire batch over, which in this case, we only had one left. So in this case, my totals here for this one single batch is going to be the 600 units at a total of 3060. Right, that's my beginning inventory. All right. So now let's go ahead and plug in the first thing here. So on May 5th, we purchased an additional 500 units at $6.25 each, with a freight costing me $50. So, May 5th, 500 units at $6.25 with a freight of $50. All right. So what's going to be my purchase price here?
3,125.
Mm-hmm. What's my total cost going to be?
3,175.
$31.75. Good. Therefore, what is going to be my total cost per item?
$6.35.
$6.35. Good. Right? So once again, we need to keep our net purchases separate from our beginning inventory, because when we compute it at the very end of the bottom window, you need to separate your net purchases. What actually did you purchase versus what did you actually carry over? So in this case, all right, what happened next on May 10? So May 10,
You purchase 800 items at $6,
and the freight was
$80.
$80. Okay. So here, what is my total purchase price?
4,800.
What is, okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
4,880,
Good.
which brings us to a cost per item to $6.10.
$6.10. So once again, I'm not going to use colors because we kind of can see the trend here that every time we add our something to our purchases, we're making a list so we can kind of keep track of what came first and what came last. So no colors here. Okay. So then what happened on May 20th?
purchase 300 units. Oh shoot, I missed the cost.
No worries. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There you go.
$6.15 each. And the freight cost was $15, I believe.
Yep, 15. All right.
Total cost 1,845. Plus the freight, total cost 1,860.
Oops. 1860.
And cost per item $6.20.
All right, good. All right. Last but not least, what happened on May 25th?
You purchase 100 units at $6.30, and the freight cost was $5. Your purchase price was $630, and 635 is your total cost, and your cost per item is $6.35.
Right? Good. Excellent. So here we made a total purchases of 4 batches of inventory, right? Here's my net purchases. But because I have beginning inventory, it's going to treat as if that was my very first batch I started out with, right? Beginning inventory. So this one's going to start at the very, very, very top before all these purchases may happen. So this is April 30th batch. Okay. So now that we have this information here, right? What happened on May 31st?
We have 400 units on hand.
Good. All right. So now that we've reached the end of our given period, let's go ahead and sum up our total columns here. So what was my total quantity? How many did I make purchases in general?
$10,400.
All right, that's
Oh,
my
I'm sorry. On the quantity. 13, 16, 1,700.
hmm. And here, since you've already solved for that one, it is 10,400. Okay. What was my total freight?
150.
150. Bringing my total cost to be my total cost
550.
10,550. All right. So let's go ahead and fill in our little table down below. All right. What was my quantity that I purchased?
1,700.
At a purchase price of
10,400.
In this scenario, we don't have any returns or any allowances. So therefore, your subtotal should be the same. All right. What about my freight? What was the total cost of my freight?
150.
All right. So of course that increases your total cost. So here my quantity is the same. But in this case, my total cost is going to be for the 10,550. 10,550. Okay. Now, do we have a beginning balance?
600.
600. At what total cost?
510. Oh, total cost $3,060.
Good. Of course, what we saw for our net purchases from right above, I'm going to copy that information down, right, in my net purchases. So I'm having that right there. So what's my goods available going to be?
Would it be 2,300 pieces?
Mm-hmm. What's my total cost of my goods available?
13,610.
Good. 13,610. Right? Now that we were given that we had 400 units on hand, how many items did I sell?
1,900.
We sold 1,900. So now let's go ahead and do our calculation. So let me copy this row right here. Right, so all right, so let's go ahead and go through which ones we sold. So we have to get to a total of 1,900. So we're doing LIFO. So which batch are we going to take away from first?
The last batch,
Which is
which would be May 25th.
May 25th, right? We treat our beginning inventory as if that existed first, or I had that originally in April 30th. So in this case, that becomes my top of the number. So here, I sold my first batch, or I'm sorry, my last batch of 100 items, right? So 100 items. We're gonna sell this one out at, okay, which we know to be a total of 635. All right. Okay, so now that batch is gone. Which batch are we going to take out next?
May 20th for 300
Yes.
quantity.
Yes. So 300 at 320. All right. Now that we eliminated that one, what's next?
We're going to use all of the 800 at $6.
All of the good. All of the 800. Right? Now, is it going to cost me 6 there? Thank you. It's going to be 610 because we're selling these items, so it's going to cost me 610. All right. So we got rid of that whole thing. What's next? We only have one batch left in our purchases. So Are we going to take all of it or are we going to use some of it?
We're gonna take all of it.
We're going to take all of it. So we're going to take all 500 units there, which we know is to cost $6.35 here. All right. So there we have it. Now we got rid of 1,700 items. How many more do I need to get to 1,900? We need to sell 200 more items. And now we're dipping into our beginning inventory because that's all that we have left. So in this case, what was my cost per item for my beginning inventory?
$5.10.
$5.10. So here in grand total, that should give you a total of $10.20. All right. So there we have it. We sold a total of 1,900, which cost us a total of $11,570. So let's plug in our number here for the 11,570. So therefore, what should be my ending inventory?
$2,040.
$2,040, right? Or 400 times 510, which should give you the same answer. All right. So there we have it. So this time we're looking at taking our batches of inventory. We're going to start from the very bottom and make our way up to the top, if you just visualize it that way. Whereas yesterday when we learned FIFO, we started from the top and made our way down to the bottom. All right. So any questions about FIFO?
No.
I'm sorry, LIFO. Did I say FIFO? LIFO. So let's go ahead and complete our conversion entry. So now that we finished on May 31st, right? What do we need to enter in as our journal to reflect our ending balance and our cost of goods sold? Actually, I just gave you the answer. So how do we compute our conversion entry?
Beginning inventory.
We have, okay, so the first inventory, is it beginning or ending?
Ending?
Yeah.
This one's going to be ending, correct. So I'll give you guys, the reference point here, that this is the ending balance, okay? What else do we need?
Beginning inventory.
We need to have our beginning inventory. Okay. I realized that I put it too close. All right, so let's start off with our ending inventory. What was the value of my ending inventory?
$2,040.
Mm-hmm. What was the value of my total cost of goods sold?
$170.
Good. What was my total purchases?
$10,550.
Okay, that's going to
Total,
include freight.
that's net.
Right.
Um, 10,400.
Right. Good. Now, what was the freight?
150.
Good. And then last but not least, what was my beginning inventory? What was the value of my beginning inventory?
$3,060.
$3,060. So once again, before I move on forth, I'm going to double check to make sure my total debits match my total credit. So I have 13,610 on one side and I have 13,610 on the right side. So, yay. All right, good job everybody. So here I'm just going to add that it's a conversion entry that I'm converting my 400 units back into inventory. So here we have it. This was our example of LIFO. All right. Any other questions to it?
No.
So right now it is exactly it's almost 10 o'clock. You guys have an option. So the next one I have here is going to be the inventory worksheet for number 2. Do you want to just push through and go through this and then end class right then and there? Or do you want to take a 15-minute break, come back, complete this, and then end the day? At the end of the day, you're going to leave at least an hour early.
Let's do it.
I'm down for pushing through.
Just go through it?
Yes.
Push through. Okay, excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and complete this right here. So this is the second one. This is just one more worksheet that we're just going to practice for. So I've already entered in all of the information for you guys, just so that we can make it a little quicker. But once again, the idea here is that we're just trying to just compute this section here. And our main idea is that we want to compute our cost of goods sold. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've already entered in the dates, the quantities, and the unit price. So all we're doing here is just filling the rest of the table out. All right. So let's start here on June 1st. We purchased a total of 1250 units at a unit cost of $1.08. So what's my purchase price going to be?
$1,350.
$13.50, okay. Plus $150 of freight to give me a grand total cost of
$1,500.
$1,500. And in this case, what is going to be my cost per item?
$1.20.
$1.20. Good. All right. Just making sure that this is $1.20. Okay, so what about my next one? So here on June 5th, I purchased 850 units at $1.10. So what is going to be my total purchase price here? $935, okay? Plus $100 freight gives me a grand total cost of $10.35, right? Which then brings me to a total cost per item to be
1.217.
Okay, so here, this is where we're starting to get numbers that aren't evenly distributed. So this is where I'm gonna, we'll see when we go through the rest of the entries whether we need to equal round or not. But what I'm gonna have you do is that because the idea here is that we're selling thousands of items, right? I would suggest this as, practice purposes and for this class only is that do not round until you reach the very end when you cost your goods sold. All right? The reason why is because think about it. If you round this to 22 cents right there, you're losing out a penny, a whole dollar for every 1,000 that you sell. That's a whole dollar. And imagine if you're doing this as a business and you have multiple items that you sell, that dollar will hurt at the end of the day because you'll be selling constantly more and more and more. So when we talk about rounding up or rounding down, for this class, because I want to teach you this, that I want a precise number. I don't want to round the units now, calculate it, and have to cut off or lose a couple dollars here and there. Now, of course, when you do move on to the real world, you will realize that some of your companies will say, no, I want you to round it out to the nearest penny. And then when you sell the items, just make sure you're good at calculating and making sure that you calculate it as to whatever it says, right? But oftentimes, if you're not really aware, you can make your simple mistake because you rounded too early. Now, what I mean by this is like, for example, if I make this 128 and I sell my first batch of 200 and then the next batch is for the next, the remaining 650 and I charge it at $1.28 or $1.22, I will be suffering because my numbers are not going to pan out exactly how much I originally purchased it for. I would have to go back, recalculate, and think how much do I need to get rid of the items. Okay, so it's a lot more work, I would say, if you round too early or round right now. But once again, when it depends on what company you work with, and if they want you to round up when you decide to calculate your cost of goods sold, then you may have to do so. But in this case, I'm going to show you that we're not going to round here. We're going to round at the very end when we calculate our cost of goods sold. But for here, if it's going to be $21.76, you keep it that way. All right? Just a little note there. So then on June 8th, we purchased an additional 700 units at $1.09. So what is going to be my total purchase price?
$763.
$763. All right. Plus my $85 of freight brings me a total cost of
$848.
$848. All right. Then what is going to be my cost per item?
That one I don't know.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
What is going to be
How
the
would
cost per item?
Say again, I'm sorry, what was the cost per item?
Mm-hmm.
$1.211.
All right, 1.211. All right, so Kim, how do we calculate the cost per item?
That's what I'd like to know.
All right, what's okay, so here, let's do the formula.
How are you getting the unrounded number?
The unrounded numbers because I'm not rounding it to the nearest penny. That's this right here
Yeah,
is unrounded. Oh, you to show it?
right.
All right, so what you're
Yeah.
going to do is you're going to highlight these cells here at the top of the window right here under your ribbon where you can format your cells. You have this little icon that says that increase the decimal places or decrease the decimal places. In this case, I want to increase. So if I were to just keep pressing them, the number or my decimals start to increase and it shows me my 10,000th of a penny.
Oh, okay.
All right. But now let's talk about how to solve for the cost per item. Right? The cost per item. Do you know what the formula is?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Okay. So in this case, the formula is going to be your total cost, right? So you're going to take your 848 and you're going to divide it amongst your total quantity. So in this case, I purchased 700 items. So you're going to take your 848 and you're going to divide it by 700 to get you to equal out this
Oh,
1.2114.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now I get it. Thank you.
Of
So
course.
you're dividing it by the quantity.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so then every time you sell an item, right, it's going to cost you $1.21 for every item in this batch that you sell.
So you're dividing the 848
Mm-hmm.
by the 700, and that's how you're coming up with the one with the 1211,429, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And this is how, when we solve for our cost of goods sold and we calculate it, this is the number that we're going to be calculating because this is what we're going to be charging our customers, right? We're having them pay for everything, including the freight cost. So this is what's going to cost me to sell the item. The purchase or the unit price is what it cost me to buy the item. But I had to incur extra costs. So that's what this number here is. You're adding the grand total cost, including freight, and you're dividing it and spreading it across the number of items that you purchased.
Okay, got it.
All right. All right, so then on June 10, we purchased 1,600 items at $1.12. So what is my total purchase price here?
$1,792.
Good. All right. Plus an additional $200 of freight gives me total cost of
1992.
$19.92. All right. And then what is going to be my cost per item here?
1.245.
1.245. Okay. All right. Next, we have on June 12th, we purchased an additional 600 units at $1.20. So, what is my purchase price here?
$720.
$720.
Mm-hmm. Plus $70 of freight gives me a total cost of
790.
good.
Then I'm gonna take the 790 and divide it by the quantity 600, and I got 790.
All right. No,
No, I
seven.
didn't get that.
Do it again. So
Divide.
790.
So 790 divided by the quantity of 600,
Okay.
and I got 1 three, one, and a bunch of sixes. Okay.
Yes,
So
good.
round the sixes off to the seven.
You can, but this is where I was discussing earlier that we're going to keep these numbers as unrounded as possible, right? Because when we calculate our cost of goods sold, right, we might end up taking the whole batch anyways. So in that point, then you don't need this cost per item. But for any reason that, let's say we do sell 1,000 of the, let's see, what number are we at? Let's say we sell 1,000 of the 1,600, right? We sell only 1,000 of them. If you round early and say it costs you $1.25, that will hurt your business because you're costing out too much and you're not earning a profit. And right there, you already lost pretty much $2 right there because it's half a penny. All right, you're losing out money right here because you sold 1,000 items here, and again, every penny makes a difference, right? Every penny, especially when you're doing business, makes a huge difference. Even if it's 10,000 of the penny, 100th of the penny, it doesn't matter what it is. It makes a huge difference, especially if you're selling large units in units in large quantities. Okay, especially look at this. We're selling by the thousands. So therefore, by you rounding way too early, you can subject to cost yourself too much and lose a profit out of it. Okay? So if I charge my customers, right, $1.25 for this batch right here, or $1.32, that is where I lose my penny because my profit is going to be smaller. Okay, because this is what it costs me to sell the items, right? And we'll talk about selling price later because you have to make sure that the selling price includes the amount that the customer is going to pay to cover all the costs, but with an addition of you making a profit out of it too. It could be 50%, 40%. So for example, if I buy these items at $1 each, right, I can turn around and sell it to my customers for $5, right? Therefore, if I'm gonna cost myself $1.32 instead of $1.3667, right? If I sell 1,000 of those items, right there, I already lost. Let me see. I already lost $2 right there of profit because I cost it way too high. So this is where I'm going to tell you here, because we have this idea, I'm going to teach you for this kind of business not to round until the very end. Okay? So let's go ahead and do the very last one. June 14, if we purchase an additional 1,200 units at $1.25, what's my total purchase price?
1,500.
1,500 plus 150 freight to give me a total cost of
1,650.
1,650, which then that brings my total cost per item to be
1.375.
all right, 1.375. All right. So once again, now that we reached the end of the table, let's go ahead and go look at the scenario real quick. So it says here that on June 15, we have a total of 500 units available. All right. So 500 goes right there. So first thing that we got to do is we have to sum up our totals. So what was the total quantity in purchases I made?
$5,200.
Okay,
Sorry.
no worries. I wasn't sure. I was like thinking really hard if that was right or not, but I got 6,200. Anybody else? Did they get the same answer?
You're right, it's 6,200. I miscalculated
All right.
somewhere.
All right. So then what was my total purchase price?
I got $5,560.
Okay, I
Which is
didn't.
probably wrong.
Yeah, I did not get that. Let me insert in here so then you guys can. All right. All right, we can slowly calculate that, right? If we take 1350 plus 935 plus 763 plus 1792 plus 720 plus 1500.
Yeah, you're correct. 7,060.
All right. So then what is going to be my total freight?
755.
755. Right? Bringing my grand total. So the quickest way to be able to get your grand total could be the 760 plus the 755. Or if you have Excel, you should be able to sum these up pretty easily. What's my total cost?
7815. I'm not sure if I added that right.
17,8.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yeah, good job. Okay. All right. So now that we have our information, let's go ahead and plug in our numbers. So we purchase a total of what was my total cost for my purchases?
7,060.
We have no returns or allowances, so you should be getting the same exact number for your subtotal. Okay. What was your freight?
755.
$755.
Okay, which we're going to add up these columns. So 62 should stay the same, but what's my total net purchases here? What's the cost of my total net purchases?
7815.
78.15. All right. Once again, we don't have beginning inventory, right? We're assuming that we're making our purchases from zero, right? No beginning inventory. This isn't a continuation of the same problem. So therefore, we have zero beginning balances. So if that's the case, I carry down my net purchases, right? Zero plus your net purchases is going to give you your goods available to be the same as your net purchase, right? Given that on the 15th of June, you have a total of 500 units. So therefore, how many units did I sell?
5,700.
5,700. All right. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and do an equal sum in this column here so I can have a running balance. Okay. And I'm going to carry this formula across over as well, just so then I don't have to calculate the total amounts at the end. Right. So we're using Lifo. We have a total of 5,700 units to sell. and we're looking at Lifo. So, which batch are we taking out from first?
614.
614 for the 1200. All right. 614 for the 1200, which once again cost me this amount right here. But we know we're going to take the whole batch anyways. So in this case, right, even if I were to add my formula here, right, this is where I want you to use your equal round formula, all right? But in this case, I'm taking the whole batch out anyways. So at the end of the day, this value is still going to, see, as I can see here, right, it shows me it's still 1650, right? You could choose to either copy your total cost here, or you could keep your formula as is, right? Your quantity times your cost per item to get your total cost here. Okay, so once again, that I got rid of my whole entire batch there. So my assumption is that I'm getting rid of this entire thing right there. Okay, that was only 1200 units. What's next? Which batch do I need to sell next?
The 600 at 1.316. Or 790 total cost.
Okay, 790 total cost. Good. All right. So how many more? Okay, so we need to keep going. So what's the next batch that we're going to sell?
It'd be the 1600 at 1.245.
Good. At 1.245. Since we're taking the whole batch anyways, it's still going to end up with 1992. Okay. So let's see where we're at now. We sold a total of 3,400 items. We need to get to 5,700. So therefore, we need to keep going. So which batch are we going to sell next now that we got rid of the last three, right? So we still have three left. So which batch are we going to sell next?
700
700. Okay.
for 1.2114.
Yes, we're going to get rid of the whole batch here. So it doesn't matter what per item unit here is going to be. For 848. Okay. Let's see. We're at 4,100. How many more items do we need to sell to get to the 5,700? I'm going to do math here. Okay, what was it? Oh, hold on. I need to do something real quick. Okay, so I need to get from 5,700 and I have 4,100. So therefore, how many more do I need to sell?
1600.
1,600. So in this case, that's since I know I need 1,600 more. Let's see what the next batch is. So here, I have to take out the whole thing for this one, right?
Yes.
So, all right. So here you guys got lucky. We're not going to learn equal round today. We're going to learn it tomorrow. On Monday. Right? Since we're taking out the whole batch of the 850 units that we purchased on June 5th, right? We're taking the whole batch. So how many units are left that we need to sell? How many more do we need to sell?
$7.50.
750. And we only have one batch left, right? How much is it going to cost me per item?
$1.20.
$1.20. So therefore, your grand total is $900. So therefore, in grand total, so here we got 5,700 units at a total cost of $7,215 even. So like I said, you guys got lucky. We didn't have to deal with having to equal round today. But Monday we will need to see how to use the equal round formula, and I'll teach you that on Monday. So therefore, how much is my ending inventory?
$600.
$600. All right. Good. All right. Any questions for doing this one? So once again, a lot of numbers. However, it's easy to just go ahead and pick which one and just calculate from there. Right. Any questions?
No.
All right. So let's go ahead and complete our journal entry. Once again, we're going to complete the conversion entry. So once again, this is now June 30th. What is my journal going to look like?
Is that the one where you start with the inventory end?
Yes. So let's see. In this case, I did not specify what items I purchased. So in this case, inventory is correct. Okay. What else do I need to recognize?
Cost of goods, purchase expense, freight expense.
So let's go to the very first one. What was the total value of my ending inventory?
$600.
$600. What was the total cost of my goods sold?
Is that the 7,815?
7,800. No, that's my goods available. This is my cost of goods sold.
7,215.
Good. All right. What was my original total purchases?
7,060.
Mm-hmm. And what was my total freight?
755.
Correct. So there's my journal. Before I finish off the day, I'm going to make sure that my debits match my credits. So I have 7,815 on the left, 7,815 on the right. All right. Good job, everybody. So, yeah. Any questions in regards to learning LIFO? So,